Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brady Grove bringing you another interlude episode of Roto Bowler's official MMA podcast. Tap that. This should be coming out the week before UFC, maybe another fight night. I forget. I just recorded last night, but you all know that I love the Eastern Kentucky University athletics program. Professor Jim Blair, friend of the podcast, he has put me in contact with some fantastic student athletes from EKU. And joining me today, she is, I believe, in her junior year at
Senior
EKU.
year,
The
my senior
website,
year.
and she is a tennis player at EKU. She's been on quite a journey since her tennis career started. Give it up for Daniela Hernandez. Daniela, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing super well. How are you doing? And thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And Danielle, I saw the coolest picture ever this morning. It's of you sitting right next to Johnny McEnroe, interviewing him for a project that you did. Uh, Real quick, before we even get into any background stuff, what was it like talking to John McEnroe?
It was crazy. I mean, I was super young. I was probably around 15 years old. And I mean, I used to practice the John Mac. And when I had to do this project, I had to interview someone. I was like, why not interview Mac? And I have like that access to him. So it was pretty great, honestly.
Oh, and I mean, one of the most dynamic and charismatic personalities in the history of tennis. But Danielle, you're from Venezuela. Yeah, you've lived in Queens, New York. You started off at the University of Louisiana-Monroe, and now you're at Eastern Kentucky. And I watched that video that they produced where you talked for like 8 minutes about your tennis career on EKU's website. So, but for people that don't know, can you take us a little bit through how you got from Venezuela to Queens?
So when I was 12 years old, I went to play some international tournaments in Florida, and they're like the most prestigious international tournaments for juniors. And after that, I went to New York, and I was at the Young Macro Tennis Academy for like a week or 2 weeks because one of the directors was from Venezuela, and my dad and I contacted him, telling him we were going to be in New York for a little bit. And they really liked my game. They obviously knew the situation that was happening back in Venezuela. And they were like, if you guys ever think about moving to the US and moving to New York, like we would like to have you here, and like you will get a full scholarship to train with us. So that's kind of like what led me to New York City.
That's awesome, and that's awesome that you got that opportunity and were able to seize it at a time that worked really well for you. And so you started off at the University of Louisiana Monroe. They're in the Sun Belt right now. What were those first 2 years like?
It was crazy. Like I don't know, like for me, I'm an only child. So I was always used to being by myself. And my freshman year, I was the only freshman on the team. So that was like a big shock for me because I wasn't used to being around girls all the time and like so many people all the time and seeing the same people over and over every day. And not just seeing them, but like working with them and talking to them. So that was a big change for me. And I really like it though. Like obviously tennis is so individual, but once you get to like be on a team and really understand like the culture of a team and work together, it's pretty crazy. And I really like my 2 years that I spent in Louisiana, but I was looking for something different. I wanted like a bigger city. I wanted I don't know, like my coach changed, so that was like a really big thing. And I was like, I think I'm ready for something else.
And it seems like throughout like your career history, it seems like having a coach that is going to be there and that you can trust is a big thing for you. And so how would you describe your relationship with your current coach?
It's good. I think that it's really important to feel like you can talk to them about like personal things. So like knowing that they're gonna understand like what you're going through personally and like how that can affect you on court. I think it's important because there's so many coaches out there that like they really don't care like how your personal life is going or like if you're going through something big. And I think like being able to sit down with a coach and them knowing that like they're gonna understand what's happening, I feel like that's like a really big thing for me.
And so, like, how does Richmond, Kentucky kind of fit with, what you were looking for when you hit the transfer portal?
It was crazy because honestly, like the transfer portal is like it's like super big and like there's just so many things going on. And I had already signed with a different school in Georgia, and like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before I started there, the coach told me like because of my situation, like I'm in between being like international but also like an American because of my visa like situation, right? There was just like they couldn't give me like all the money, and they told me like 2 weeks before I started school in Georgia, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do now? And the coach like from Georgia told me like I'm gonna put you in contact with some coaches, and I was like, okay. So he put me in contact with Adam, and I was like, okay, I guess like this sounds like a really good opportunity. And then I was talking to some other coaches as well, and this is like 2 weeks before like I was supposed to start the school in Georgia. So I was like, well, what is going on? And I started talking to coaches, and I was like, okay, I have to make a decision. And Coach Adam gave me like a certain time. And that same day that I was gonna give the answer to Adam, like when I was gonna say yes, the coach from Georgia that I already signed with, told me, never mind, like we can get you here, like we can get you like the full scholarship that you were looking for. So you can come here if you want to. And I'm like, oh my God, like don't say that to me. And I was like, look, I don't know, but there's something telling me that I have to go to Eastern Kentucky. And I already talked to Coach Adam, and I'm about to call him and tell him I'm coming. So I'm here now. And there was just something. I don't know what it was. I just feel like it was like a way for me to be a part of building a program and helping girls that were maybe weren't as experienced as me. And that's what I've been trying to do here, like with the team.
And I say this all the time. I think Eastern Kentucky has a phenomenal direction and vision for what the future of college athletics is going to look like and for how they kind of fit into that. I think they're taking a lot of steps to plan for the future. And we'll get to that more in a minute for sure. But since you've been competing in the ASUN, for the time that you've been actually competing for EKU, how do you evaluate your own performance and how do you evaluate the level of competition that's in the conference?
So for ASUN, this is like a super tough like tennis conference. Like I think it's one of the toughest ones. It's definitely tougher than the conference, like the Sunbelt conference I was in before. There were also many changes, like from the year I came here, like they added more people to the Sunbelt, and ASUN has, I mean, like it has North Florida, it's Stetson, it has GCU, like those are three like really big tennis schools. So it has been like a lot of it's very competitive. And also like we've been trying to work with what we have. We weren't happy about our season last year. And so many people kept saying like, oh, like, but you guys did good with like what you had in such a short time. And we're like, yeah, okay, thank you. But like we could have done so much because we really do have like a talented team. I think it was just more of like we didn't really have enough time. We were people coming, like we only had like 4 girls in fall, and like we had more people coming in spring, so like we didn't really get to build that relationship between the team as we would like to. So like this year we're really focusing on that, and like hopefully like I know we're gonna do like a lot better. Like we want to do like a really good job on the conference this year.
And so, when you look at your own performance, what are the things that you're kind of looking at that specifically you're looking to improve upon this upcoming season?
I feel like for me, it's more of like trying to enjoy it, honestly. Like, obviously, like, it's my last year. I want to like set up an example for the younger girls and just, like to try to not put as much pressure. That's like what I'm trying to do and just have fun with the game. And when you enjoy it the most, like, that's when the best results come in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, let's talk about the transfer portal a little bit. You've already, given me an insight into how crazy your own personal experience is. And now multiply that by every single athlete that's in the transfer portal across every different sport. It's got to be just absolute chaos. And, so besides the things that you've already told us about all the chaos of, am I going to Georgia? Am I not going, and living in Georgia and playing there? What was your experience like, trying to, get in contact with people and trying to figure out what the best place for you was going to be?
So, I mean, it was kind of crazy when I got in the portal because it takes like a few days for you to like show up, like actually show up in the portal. So you're like with so much anxiety and like, okay, like when our coach is gonna start reaching out, when am I gonna make this decision? Like I probably got in the transfer portal in like April, I think, after we were done with season, or maybe a little bit before that. And coaches started reaching out, but it was just like not something that I was like, okay, like do I want to go here? Where is this school going to bring me? Like, do they have a good culture? Do they have a good team? Do they have like a good coach that actually cares? So obviously, like when you have 2 years experience in college, I'm gonna be honest, like when you come in as a freshman, you don't know anything. Like I thought I knew like so many things, and I knew nothing about college athletics. Like let's be honest, when you come in as a freshman, you don't know. So when you get to experience those 2 years, now you want for more. Now you know what you can get, what other schools can offer. So I think I was trying to focus on that. Okay, what can I do? Like I want to like a higher level at a better school and like maybe a closer to a city. So when I was talking to schools, like I wanted a coach that obviously wanted me on the team. So that's something that the coach from like North Georgia University like was wanted me. Like he was showing that he wanted me on the team. And then that happened. And then when I talked to Coach Adam, I liked what he was trying to build for this team. So I thought it was like the best fit.
And, so you've been in school for a few years now as a college athlete, and it's been a turbulent time in college sports. There's the transfer portal, there's conference realignment, and there's NIL. And, so when were still in Queens and trying to figure out, what you were going to do as far as college sports went, how did you kind of evaluate what your opportunities were going to be? And, how has that kind of changed now?
Mm, I mean, I think there's just so many things changing right now, like with the NIL stuff and like how you create your own personal brand, like that's super important, you know? Like what you put out there in social media is gonna stay there forever. And it's all connected. Like if you think that coaches don't look at your social media, you're kidding yourself, like they're gonna look at it. So all of that creates opportunities, you know. Um, with the NIL stuff, I think it's important as an athlete to like try to take advantage of those things as well. Like I currently have 2 NIL deals, and I mean I'm studying marketing, so it kind of goes hand by hand, you know, like learning how to put your brand out there. And those are small opportunities that keep creating bigger ones, you know.
And this is something I was talking about with John Tapias of the cross country team earlier this week. Is that with the NIL, you realize that there are markets for NIL deals for college tennis players because there's a lot of high school tennis players and youth tennis players out all across the world that are looking, to American college sports, and they're following these people and they see the products that they're using, and there's a ton of different endorsement opportunities, just within the sport. It's not, just that NIL opportunities are limited for tennis players to tennis products, but there's so much stuff out there. And so you really get the opportunity to build, kind of a niche following, and there's value there.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's like you said, like there's so many pros, there's so many things. Like I think it's finding like a good company that works with you as well and like shows who you are. I don't think like, for example, for a athlete makes sense to work with let's say like a McDonald's or something like that. You know, like I feel like it has to go hand by hand, like with everything. Yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion.
And this is also an era where I mean, a few years ago, if I told you that the most famous college athlete in the world was a female gymnastics athlete from the SEC, that would be insane. And right now, that's the world we're living in. Is the top earners in college NIL are all in women's athletics. And here's something because you're talking about your NIL opportunities going hand in hand with who you are as a person. And so, what do you I don't want to ask you whether you think it's good or bad. I just want to get your thoughts on the fact, like it seems like a lot of NIL opportunities for, a lot of female athletes are, coming through TikTok and through a lot of stuff where, it's not necessarily the person's sport that is the focus of what they're advertising. And so do you think that's a good direction for women's work? Because a lot more people are making a lot more money now, and what they're accomplishing on the field of play is definitely way more. I mean, we just had 92,000 people attend a women's volleyball game up in Nebraska. So,
Amazing. Yeah.
what do you think about, is that a great direction for women's sports to be headed?
I mean, I think in a way, like women can like aim for more attention sometimes because we also don't get as much attention sometimes as guys can get in, especially like in the field of sports, it is harder for us to get money, and that's just the truth. And but also like I feel like you need to think like, okay, how is this product gonna make me look? How is this gonna make me be portrayed into the world, right? Like for me, I feel like I wouldn't work with a brand that I wouldn't feel represented by. Like I feel like that's really important. You need to, okay, what is this brand gonna offer me? How do people see this brand? It's not just about the money, but also what can this brand say about me?
No, absolutely. And folks, go follow her on Instagram at Danny Hernandez 1106. She's got 2,178 followers. And you're absolutely right about coaches checking out your social media. And not only that, it's a selling point for you to different schools. It adds to your value that they're looking to bring into the programs.
Yeah, correct. It is that's just how it works.
um, And so, at this point in your career, what are you? I know you're studying marketing. What are you looking to do, after your undergraduate career is over, at the very least?
So I will have a chance to maybe stay here and do my master's. I'm thinking about that, or maybe try to go into a bigger schools and do my master's somewhere else. But I really love this school so much, so I would like to stay connected to the school. What I'm doing after college is still pretty shaky, and I think like that's something like not many athletes talk about. I think people are talking about it more now, but I think being a senior is pretty like you don't know where you're going a lot of times. Like that transition from being an athlete your whole life and like competing almost every week and not having that later on, I think is pretty like, okay, what am I gonna do now, right? So that's something that happens to a lot of us, and I think it's completely normal. And like I feel like I wish people would talk about it more, because I've talked to a lot of my friends that are seniors or like that already graduated, and they went through that like identity crisis, I guess. So I think it's important to build like during your like when you're in college to understand that you're not just your sport, you're not just an athlete, but you're also a person. So I guess like I'm trying to see what's next for me.
And I think that a lot of, I think a lot of ground has been made for, athletes. There's a lot more opportunities for them to keep their sport involved in their life, in whatever they choose to do after
Hmm.
school. And there's way more opportunities and, resources to help them on that segue if they don't plan to keep the sport a part of their life. So
Of
it
course.
seems like that's positive, and it's good that, you want more people to talk about it, because it sounds like they absolutely should be.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
So, Daniela, this has been a very interesting conversation. Learned a lot about the transfer portal for sure today.
Mm.
Thank you so much for being here. If there's anything else that you want to say or anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
I mean, this is goes for my seniors, kind of repeating what I said earlier. Like, don't be afraid of maybe not knowing what's gonna happen after you walk on in May for graduation. Like it's okay to feel a little bit nervous about what's going on, but we're all in the same boat, and I'm sure we're all gonna figure out. And for the younger ones that are out there, just don't be afraid of the NIL deals, but also take like really smart decisions about it. And as you are a student athlete, but you're also a person, so make sure you try to balance everything as much as you can. And don't forget, like you're a person with emotions, and just if you balance everything, like it's gonna be a great 4 years.
Folks, this has been another interlude episode of RotoBallers official MMA podcast. Tap that. With me this morning was Daniela Hernandez of the Eastern Kentucky University women's tennis team. Thank you so much for being here this morning, Daniela. Folks, we got a bunch more interlude episodes coming with athletes from the Eastern Kentucky University Athletics Department. Thanks for listening this morning. Have yourselves a great week, and peace.